What's going on, Ambitious Vets? Welcome to episode number 14 of the Ambitious Vet Show with international best-selling author, former colonel, and Global Voice Radio founder Denise Joy Thompson. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet. My name is Chris Hoffman, former Marine combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. Guys, we're here to dive into the trenches with today's top-performing military veterans that were once warrior-made, but are now passion-driven, guys. Thus, just unlocking your secret formulas to living a more passion-driven, impactful, and fulfilling civilian life. Are you one of those vets that have a big vision but are being met very quickly with big adversity? Are you feeling like you're hitting that roadblock, maybe even hitting that first breaking point out of the uniform? See, a lot of ambitious vets that come into our Facebook group, Veteran Empowerment Transition Tribe, complain about the same thing that we all look back and we say, hey, that could have been better at. And that is taps and tams, guys. Think about it. We get fire hosed with tons of information when at that time of our life, all we really need is perspective. We need self-awareness, and we need to be equipped on actually how to utilize those resources, right? Resources are only good if you know how to use them. If you don't know who you are, you don't know how to use resources, right? So guys, what we want to do is we want to invite you over to the Veteran Empowerment Transition Tribe, guys, where we are just driven off you guys gaining that perspective, being equipped with the self-awareness tools and the resources and the networking that allows you guys to live that impactful, influential, and just that life that you start becoming known for something. One of the biggest things I desired to do when I got out of the uniform is be known for something. Actually become someone in something. I got out feeling like Clark Kent. I wanted to go back feeling like Superman. Well, that's exactly what Veteran Empowerment Transition Group is, filled with over 500 ambitious vets. We do 2 weekly live shows. With one, this is me, live with the Passion Driven Tip every single week, where I'm giving you a tip, strategy, or some kind of concept that I'm creating on a new project, or giving you some insights out of my ebook. I'm also doing a live interview with a top performing veteran inside the group every single Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So guys, don't miss that live interaction. These recordings inside of this is what's pre-recorded live. If you guys want to be interacting with us real time, get over to Veteran Empowerment Transition Tribe. Guys, you're not going to miss it. There we are creating a new breed of transitioning veteran, and we believe that ambitious vets are the ones that set the status quo by being the standard. Guys, we'll see you there. What's going on, ambitious vets? Now it's time to go ahead and introduce our guest today. Today we're going to have Denise Joy Thompson on the show, guys. She was a 27-year military service member that got out as a colonel. Now she's transitioned into being a transformative coach. She's CEO of Global Broadcasting LLC, founder of Global Voice Radio, and the owner of Coaching Alliance. And her number one mission right now is to help women find their voice. As I said before, she is a number one best-selling author as well, guys. You're going to definitely want to hear every word that she says in here. It gets raw, it gets real, and we talk about a lot of really cool transformative techniques to allow you guys to figure out how to get unstuck and use your perspective of the military to really dominate and really thrive in the civilian sector. So guys, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Denise, welcome to the Ambitious Vet Show.
Well, thank you so much for having me as a guest and for sharing some of the things that I've done in my life. And it's just amazing to sometimes look at what we have accomplished when we use our gifts, our talents, our skills to help others. So I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there's a lot more than that. But I mean, if you would go ahead and just fill the gaps in between that bio, because that's a huge trophy case. I didn't think I was ever going to get done with that bio because of everything that you've accomplished. But can you fill the gaps, kind of let someone get to know you as an individual a little bit?
Well, thank you, Chris. You know, when I look at my journey, I am usually amazed at where I am today, because I never imagined that I would have almost 28 years in the military. I had never imagined growing up being in the military. So quickly about high points of my journey. So I went to a Lutheran college in Iowa, graduated with a degree in social work, and then I knew I wanted to do more or know more than what I learned just with my bachelor's. And I acquired a master's degree from Florida State University. And so I had my master's at 23. And the Gulf, we were just building up in the Gulf, right? In the summer, fall of 90. And I thought, I should be patriotic. I should join the military. And, even though my father had served some time in the National Guard when he was younger, no one in our family had really talked to me about the military. But for whatever reason, it's like, okay, so I'm going to join the military. So how do you do that? Well, you go to the recruiter's office, right? And we always see the recruiter's office, there's Army, Marines, Navy, and the Air Force. So luckily, when I got to the door of the Air Force, they knew what to do with the social worker. And they're like, yeah, we do. We have you. We have your career field. So come and join us. And so I was commissioned in February of 91 and served my first 4 years on active duty. And then I returned to Iowa and subsequently went into private practice. I remained a reservist. So, and then 9/11, 2001, 9/11 occurred. And on that morning, what was interesting, and it was a Tuesday, and that was the day that I spent at a veterans center. I had a VA contract. And so that day, for about 8 to 10 hours, I saw veterans one after another. I was a therapist in the middle of farmland in Iowa. And so when I got the phone call, my veterans were waiting in the waiting room, and I said, I need to cancel appointments. I said, I'm called back. And they were so excited. Not that they didn't have to see me anymore, but they were like, you go get them. I was sort of like, well, I'm a social worker. I'm not necessarily going to be in the front line. But they were so supportive of what I was going to go do, that I was going to go actively serve in response to whatever we would be doing as a country. So I was mobilized and I stayed on orders continuously until the end of 2009. So from having my private practice, I was teaching at a university. I loved my house that I had in Iowa, and I was close to family. And as many people experienced after 9/11, 2001, our lives changed dramatically. And during that time, I deployed twice. I was in Iraq in 2008. I deployed to Kuwait in 2009. And, it really was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. And all of us who have deployed have those experiences that we would not ever give up, and how we grow and what we learn from our deployments. But of course, there's also things that happen that we wish would not have happened. And so after my deployments, I was off of active duty for a few months, and then I was called back. So I was back on for about another 3 years. And then I got off for a few months, and they called me back, because we do need mental health in the military. We need to be supporting our military members when they're faced with the crises and traumas that they face.
Yep.
And so, and I was, TDY long-term to different locations. And then I would come back to San Antonio, and then I would be TDY again, supporting different mental health clinics across the US. And so in all of that, I never really imagined that would be my life. And I loved it. I've learned, I've grown from it. And having those experiences really has given me the ability to recognize I can do anything. Now, it doesn't mean that I can do everything perfectly, right? And even now as a business owner, the technology side of things sometimes is very frustrating, because that wasn't my forte or is not what I'm trained in. But I always think about, what have I already accomplished? what have I already faced in my life? And for a lot of veterans, you can relate that sometimes we think, well, nobody is dying, nobody's bleeding, we're not getting shot or bombed at. So whatever is going on in my life, I can handle. And oftentimes when I get frustrated, that is my thought. Is like, wait a minute, I'm in my home office, or I'm speaking on stage, or I'm publishing a book. Nothing really is as bad as if your life is in danger. So it helps me to reframe and have a different mindset about whatever the frustration or annoyance is.
Right. Kind of puts things into perspective, right? Being being on deployment, being in those situations, you've been on two. I was in one in 2010 to 2011. I was in Afghanistan. You know, I was quick reaction force out there. So I was a part of some of the stuff. I was a 240 gun Bravo. So I was up on top of the MRAP actually getting some out there. So when you come back and you're applying it to your life, a lot of stuff, it's good to have someone like yourself, like a social worker or a coach or a therapist actually, because what I did when I got out is I actually did what is called cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm sure you're aware of that, where I actually started rationalizing my thoughts, challenging them, because I had a lot of that social anxiety. I had a lot of that, when's the chaos going to pop off? And actually doing cognitive behavioral therapy had me start actually rationalizing my thoughts versus before when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was all or nothing thinking. All neurons or no neurons, right? So, and always ready to go and jump. So, I mean, I think that's a really good perspective, Denise. Thank you for bringing that. And just a quick question, because I got a bachelor's in psychology. I'm not nearly as educated as you are in psychology, but I have a bachelor's in psychology. Did you get into that field because you wanted to fix yourself, or did you want to go and actually help people at first? There's an aura around that.
Well, of course, I didn't have anything to fix in myself, right? So, and actually, growing up in a small town in Iowa, I was very involved in the Lutheran Church and had taught Sunday school, Bible school. I was in the choir and the youth group. And initially, when I went to Wartburg, which is a Lutheran college, I had sort of thought about I would take religious studies and then go to seminary. And of course, I was still questioning, is that my path? Is that what I was to do? And the answer that I got was that was not to be my path. I was to go into social work. I was to go into mental health. I was to be an advocate for others, to help them get through whatever they were dealing with. Now, of course, all of my training helps me, right? Because I can think about, what do I help others to do? Even as you were talking about coming back from deployments, coming out of the military, it is a huge transition. So even for myself, I rely on my training and my knowledge and how much I've helped others. And then I use that on myself. Now, sometimes I wish I wasn't a therapist and knew better, right? Because I can't just throw a temper tantrum. I would love to sometimes. I am human. But then that therapist voice comes and say, okay, now let's think about this and let's put it into a perspective that's healthy, even though that part of me, wants to swear, wants to throw something, wants to stomp my feet. Like you said, that cognitive behavioral therapy, putting things into a perspective that it's healthier and doesn't become dysfunctional.
Yeah. And I think it's the vets that get out of the uniform and feel entitled. Like, I was reading an article that was posted in the tribe a couple days ago. And it talked about how most veterans in 2018 are getting out and feeling entitled, and they have this lack of identity. Like, the government owes me, or, civilian world owes me, and they're not willing to do that inner work, and it turns to dysfunctionality versus coming from within out. I'm like, okay, maybe I do need to do some self-reflection here, actually do a little bit of work on myself to actually figure out, okay, how do I start building some building blocks out of the uniform. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. One of the things you mentioned was veterans getting out and thinking that they might be owed.
Yeah.
And I think it's sometimes looking at the ages of people getting out, because I don't
Right.
know. I didn't read the article, so I don't know if the article referenced individuals who were staying in 20, 25, 30 years, or is it the younger generation who are getting out after maybe one or two tours,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily having the skills when they came in that they can look at. You know, do they need to go back to school?
Mm-hmm.
Is their skills transferable to new jobs? But I think that we do need to make sure, and you offer services yourself, and you know of other organizations that offer transitional help.
Right.
And it really is getting them into those organizations so that their possibly negative thinking or a negative perspective of what needs to happen now, that doesn't become so ingrained that they can't work in the civilian world, because we do have to transition back to working with civilians.
All right, guys, and Ambitious Vets, we are back, part 2 of the juicy interview with Denise Thompson, guys. There was some internet glitch over here on our end of things. We troubleshooted, we adapted and overcome like military members do. And guys, now we are back into the trenches with Denise. Denise, thank you for being so flexible for me and for all of us.
You know, like you said, that's the way we roll. When you have military training behind you, you deal with whatever comes up.
Exactly. So where we left off was kind of like in the transitional period, I believe. Like, obviously, you being a colonel now, serving over 27 years, and actually now being reservist, it's a different angle versus a guy like me that, you know, served 4 years as a corporal, got out enlisted. From your perspective, from your angle, tell us a little about your transition out of the uniform to the civilian world and how you found that purpose and that passion as you got out.
Right. Well, and actually it has been a little bit more difficult than what I thought. One of the things that I knew after being in the military 27 years and working as a therapist, though the last several years I did more program development than actually seeing patients. But I knew I did not want to go back into private practice. I didn't want to continue as a therapist. And I have had other businesses in the past. I had built a private practice before 2001. As I mentioned, I was called back to active duty in 2001. So I had built that business. And I was well known in my community. I served as an expert witness on child sexual abuse cases, on child custody cases. I did adoption work, besides having several contracts, including a VA contract, providing therapy to veterans. So I had built that business, so I understood business. Also, while I was on active duty in Texas, starting in probably 2007, I created a company teaching crisis and disaster response, because that's part of my training. I actually am an international trainer in critical incident stress management. I've worked for several insurance companies. I train first responder agencies. So I also built that business. So I decided in 2016, after I had taken a formal coaching course, I decided I wanted to work with women business owners to help them build their businesses and overcome some of the obstacles, the barriers that I myself had to deal with and had to overcome. One of the things, though, that was a little bit different in 2016, coming out of uniform as a colonel, and for other, for senior enlisted, they may find this also, there's certain recognition, prestige that you have when you're a senior enlisted and a senior officer. And now all of a sudden you're leaving that behind. You're leaving behind your identity, your uniform, your clothing. I had to figure out what are civilian women wearing in the world. I'm used to camouflage. Very protective, right? It's like, you know what you're going to wear every day. I knew how people were going to react to me. I knew that I could get things done, not only because I knew the rules and I was creating some of the policy myself, but yes, I was a colonel. And I would not use that. You know, I had to learn that I couldn't mention, oh, that painting's crooked, because somebody would quickly get up and straighten it. You know, and I was just making an observation. But people react to you differently. Then all of a sudden you're in the civilian world and nobody really cares what your rank was. They might care about your experience, but they don't even understand how people are treated differently in the military depending on your job and your rank. And not that I expect people to stand up when I walk into a room in the civilian world, but it is different. It's a transition. And so, in helping women step into the business world, one of the things that I emphasize to women is if you have a business, no matter how big or small, you are an owner. You are the CEO of your business. Now, whether or not they have, you know, registered as an LLC or not, the point is you are now this individual responsible for your business, so we can step into that role. You can step up to the plate and you can be a business owner just as any other woman or man. And so we have to step into that role. We step into our power. We step into what we're doing so that we have that persona. And that's one of the things that I had to step into differently now being in the civilian world. And one of the things that some of the women early on, when I was doing women leadership workshops and workshops for women business owners, I said something about when you're working with civilians, and they said, well, wait a minute, you are one. So I had to, that's another thing that we as military members need to think about when we step into the civilian world, right? When we're transitioning, we are now one of them. So we have to be a little bit careful of thinking, well, we're going to maintain all of our military persona. We're now in a different world. And so we now have to assimilate to what's going on and to recognize that we are one of them and not create this barrier between us and them.
And like getting that barrier out of the way. So it was like a status change for you, coming from a colonel perspective where it's like you can't get any higher, right? From a colonel and like the rank structure to getting out and actually transitioning into a business owner, empowering women. I mean, you're kind of switching roles, but kind of not. I was in a great conversation before this, as I was sharing before we went live, with a guy that said, if veterans could just get down to the simplicity of the transition, how civilian has a rank structure just like the military, where the CO is equivalent to the CEO, and the senior enlisted are more of his his upper management system, then you start realizing the gap of what you need to do to climb up the rank structure. And that's kind of what I hear in what you're sharing is like, yeah, us as veterans, it's a status change, but it's like, how do I bridge the gap between the barrier between me and the civilian world that for the most part in today's world, forget about us when we're out there serving. They're so caught up in the day-to-day survival. We're stuck in stability for, in your case, 27 years. For me, it was 4 years, 1st and 15th of every month. That was good on taxable income, right? Get out. Now, all of a sudden, now you're just out, and now you got to learn on how do you bring this energy, this frequency that we bring as veterans, because we're top performers, we're high energy people, and we're us Marines, we're intense, we're rough that, tough that, devil dog, and we go and bring it. So how did you deal with the status change? That's interesting, and what you brought up there.
Well, over time, I mean, I had to recognize it. I had to recognize that I didn't necessarily have a staff anymore,
right,
to work on my projects, right? As a business owner, building my business, I was my staff. And that's also a difficult thing. One of the things in the military is we are a team, right? We don't do really anything by ourselves. We have our immediate team. And then if you look at the different echelons of support, you always have a team helping you. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes we don't have a bare bones staff, but there's still someone to discuss something with, or to bounce something off of, or to say, hey, will you read this? Am I on the right track? We're developing this. Let's talk about war plans, right? Let's talk about strategy. And so now, as a business owner, I'm all of those people. And actually, when you talk about the transition, and in the military, you learn about strategy, right? Even as a social worker, I had to learn about war strategy. I had to learn, I took the same courses to be promoted to colonel as our pilots did, as our engineers did, as anybody. I had to learn about war, strategy, operations, tactics. And so one of the things that I bring when I'm working with people is putting their business plan into that perspective. And that was a switch too, because you would talk to somebody and then I'd ask them, so what's your strategy? And they would look at me like I was speaking a different language because that's not what they're taught. But to me, if we don't have strategy, if we don't have that overarching framework, you then can't go to the next level of operations to figure out what your main activities are going to be. And then you can't look at the action steps or the tactics. So that was different too, bringing our language into the world that we all now have transitioned into. And we have so many things that we can share with others, but we have to remember that they weren't spending the last 4 years, 27 years, 10 years learning from a military perspective how to build something and how to be successful. So we have to gently share what we know, and we have to listen to truly understand where they are coming from. And that is something that we as military members transitioning need to realize, that it's a different way of thinking, and we need to be open to listening, truly understanding, before we just sort of try to push what we know works, right? We know how to win wars. We know how to do high level development.
Yep. High levels of execution. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that's missing in the marketplace that veterans could actually fill right now is strategy, strategic leadership. I think that's the biggest need we see. And it's like, it's you out there empowering women that are allowing that to actually happen. So you're that self-expression in the world right now, which is amazing. And thank you for being that, because I think any veteran that's watching this could apply that even in their life. Figure out what are the strategies, get it down to basic. What is the offense? What is the defense that you need to be doing in your life to be positioned and have strongholds in your life to actually go out there and actually execute, discover the operations, figure out the tactics, what are the routines and rituals you need to be putting in your life to become 1% better every day. So that's amazing wisdom. So I want to kind of flip the switch. I mean, what was like the biggest failure for you whenever you got out of the uniform? Like, I want you to get real with this. When you were getting out of the uniform, what was like a failure? What did you get stuck on? What was your biggest struggle whenever you were transitioning out and actually trying to create that momentum?
Right. My biggest struggle was that what I was building, I was not able to build it as fast as I wanted to do. And I had never had that happen in my life. Give me a project, I will get it done. In deployment, what's our mission? I will get it done. I will build this. I will create this. And even when I was in private practice before a lot of the technology that we have today, it's like, well, I got this. And so whether it was age, whether it was having been back on active duty and in the military for however many years, and I'm coming back to a world that I've been out of for quite a while. And so it was like, this isn't happening as fast as I would like it. And I didn't like how that felt. I didn't like, and I was not comfortable with, that I was not building and creating as fast as I've done in the past. And then that made me question my skills, which we have to be careful of self-doubt and how that can grow to become a huge barrier of us moving forward. But it was very difficult because a lot of us, most of us in the military are very intelligent, very well trained, have huge accomplishments, and have overcome a lot in our lifetime. So personally, that was very difficult. And part of it was the technology. It wasn't what I was used to doing. And I created a block in my mind. And once in a while, I find myself telling myself, well, I'm not techie. And then I'll figure something out. I'm like, oh, well, that was really easy. Once you Google something, watch a YouTube video, or actually read, okay, now what's the next button I have to push, or what's the next box? And so I created this this doubt.
Mm.
And it's really sort of silly when I look at things I've done. It's like, really?
Right.
Why would I ever doubt myself?
Mm.
But I'm a human being. And when we are transitioning, when we're in situations that are unknowns, then personally, our mind creates the story. And the story can be positive and motivating,
Mm-hmm.
or the story can create self doubt. And once you go down that rabbit hole, if you don't stop yourself at a certain point, you really can disrupt everything that you're doing.
Yeah. Mm. Whoo. I
Yeah.
need to hear that. I needed to hear that, Ambitious Vet Nation. I'm sure there's a few of you that are watching this that need to hear that and get real, because it's just something about transparency. A human being getting transparent and authentic, that allows us to actually begin to look within and actually start asking us the internal questions. I think there's a lot of veterans that are out there that are going to be watching this, and some that, you guys may share this content out there that need to hear this, that you got to start within. You got to ask those difficult questions. And I think, Denise, with you, I think, when you were a colonel, you didn't have to fund your team. The government was funding these people, and they had to be there for you, right? Or they'd get NJP'd or whatever it may be, right? When you get out, you've got to create the revenue to actually build a team around you. You are 100% responsible. So you got to create the systems. Government, the structures and systems are already created.
Right.
It's really awesome. It's really awesome. So, and yeah, you are crazy successful. So it's crazy for me to even hear that coming from you. And, like that's amazing. And thank you for being authentic and really honest, because that allowed us to connect with you on a deeper level.
Well, and I think in some ways, we, and even you, I mean, for being a Marine and dealing with what you've had to deal with, but then you're also human. And as you build your business and you're doing new things,
Mm-hmm.
as human beings, no matter what our training is, we can have that doubt. And when we're honest with one another, then those doubts don't grow. We normalize it, right? And that's one of the things that we talk about in regards to cognitive behavioral techniques in creating a more positive mindset, is to look at the negative thoughts or the thoughts that are not as positive or not as motivating, and recognize as a human being, you may have that thought. And then the moment we have that thought, we want to recognize it and then challenge it so that it doesn't grow bigger. But
Right.
any one of us, no matter your experience, your rank, that you own a Fortune 500 company, any one of us as a human being can have those doubts. But do you feed your doubts,
Mm.
or do you feed your abilities?
Mm. Ooh, there's a golden grenade. Boom. Do you feed your doubts, or do you feed your abilities? That's impressive. That's awesome. For a long time, I can definitely say that was feeding my doubts out of the uniform. And that's why I never created traction, which is what I'm going to ask you next. You created tremendous amount of traction and rhythm out of the uniform very quickly. Now, a lot of veterans that get out, that's what they complain about. They don't have that structure, as you were saying before, that accountability, or they don't see the resources to actually create that rhythm and momentum out of the uniform. How did you, Denise, find the resources, or find the rhythm and the momentum out of the uniform?
Well, one of the things is I like to create, I like to build, and I don't take a lot of time to think about something. I mean, I
Mm.
take enough time to know how am I going to do this, and then let's do it.
Yep. Yep.
So when I decided that I am going to go into coaching, I took a coaching program. And then I'm going to work with women small business owners. So I created a Facebook group here in the San Antonio area, and I started having workshops for women so that I could meet civilian women. I didn't have civilian women friends, and because of the military. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm going to create friends. I'm going to have events, right? That's how I meet people. You come to my event and we get to meet people. Mm. And so even Global Voice Radio, which is my newest creation, we launched, I started putting the framework together in July or August of last year. We launched in November. So it wasn't a year-long process. It's like, I want to do this. Mm. Women need to have visibility. I do have male hosts with Global Voice Radio, but one of the things I was seeing was there was a gap in a done with you, some done for you, comprehensive host program for our messages to be shared globally. So I'm like, well, I'm going to build this. And I have a very dear colleague and friend, Irene Pro, who is a wonderful graphic designer and understands almost everything technology related. And so she helps with she does the creative designs and most of the technology. And so it's like, let's do this. Let's create a platform so anyone, mainly business owners, it's sort of been mainly in the personal development realm, so that they can have a voice, so they can share their message. Mm. And some people say, well, how did you do that so quickly? And it goes back to my military training. What's the strategy, the operation, and the tactics? Mm. But I don't wait years to do something.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that pretty much explains it. You think it and you just do it and you figure it out along the way. I mean, I relate that to, I heard, are you aware of Grant Cardone at all? One of the top sales guys, sales trainers, stuff like that. I actually went to a seminar of his last year, and I got a 5-minute Q&A with this man. And I asked him, I was like, okay. And it was adapted to exactly what you said. I asked him, I was like, hey, you started as a car salesman back in, early 90s, okay, over here in La Jolla, California. What attributed to you creating the habits? What was the habit, the behaviors that allowed you to create a $100 million company? He was just like, well, I thought about it and I just did it. I didn't pray upon God and hope for things to come into my life. I mean, I did that, but I didn't wait for those blessings to come. I went and I created those opportunities by taking massive action. And it sounds like exactly with you is you thought it, you went out, you built it, and then people came. You created the vision and people saw it, and then people just came.
Right. And, one of the things being on the Air Force side, you build the plane while flying. I mean, now that's not optimal. You would like to build a plane that's already built, but the concept behind that is not to become stagnant, not to allow so much time to elapse. That what was your original passion? What was your original inspiration? What were you trying to transform, and that you were in love with? Because if that idea 3 years later you haven't done anything, you're probably not going to.
Right.
Because you're probably on to something else that you maybe didn't build and create. So, and it's almost like Richard Branson. It's and his quote is, "Say yes, figure out the how later."
Yep. Yeah. Some of the most successful people in the world are just high executors. I have, Denise, this is me being totally transparent with you, but when I first started the Ambitious Vet show, I didn't know how the hell I was going to figure this out. And the first couple of shows, we couldn't even get it live because I couldn't figure out how to get the software to work. But I mean, due to my reputation, my integrity, and who I was before I launched this show, people were flexible with me, but they knew I was an executor and they knew I would figure it out. And I learned along the way. And now it's gotten to where it reaches 1,000 people a week live. And it touches a lot of people's lives and it attracts other influencers like you that comes in here and just drops golden grenades that blow all of our minds. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. I really appreciate you asking me because, I've been following you since I have joined other veterans groups, because for a while I didn't even know that these groups were out there.
Yeah.
You know, I follow you, Robert Garcia, Andrew O'Brien, Stephen Kuhn. I mean, some of you all now are like my go-to. Oh, what did they say about that? What did they say about that? And that helps us as veterans. We have this support group of veterans. Then in some ways, they are our tribe. They are our support system. We want to also be connecting with civilians, with those of you who do not have military experience, but we know that if we come to one another, we understand the military background, and sometimes we can answer some of those questions that come up because of our military experiences.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. And we have a background of relatedness that is almost palpable.
Yes.
Right. So that's good. So I want to switch gears. I know that you just co-authored a book called Live in Gratitude Daily, Key to Abundance, Joy, and Love. And you are grounded in transformative work. And I want to kind of just take the next couple minutes to talk about what this new co-authored book that you've done, what that message is, and also how it can be adaptive to the ambitious transitioning veteran community. How can this new transformative ideology be applied to transitioning veterans?
Well, Live in Gratitude Daily is my soul's purpose. And we actually relaunched the book in 2018. We redesigned the inside. We have mandalas so people can actually color. But Live in Gratitude Daily is actually a 365-day journal that takes the person through an experience to where they actually have a Live in Gratitude Daily lifestyle. And when you look at research, which I did when I was creating this journal, research shows that gratitude is the foundation of abundance, joy, and love. There were several experiments done that shows people's health increased when they practiced gratitude. Relationships and positive communication increased when they practiced gratitude. Businesses had increased productivity when they practiced gratitude. So sometimes we think, oh wait, if I love enough, if I'm attentive enough, but it really is when you have a mindset of gratitude. And part of that gratitude is it starts with us. Right. Oftentimes we are our own worst enemy. So through this book, this journal, we even focus on loving and being grateful for ourselves, being grateful for every single thing. You know, one of the individuals that I had talked about, and I actually met Dr. Joe Vitale, who was in The Secret. And he had been homeless at one point in time. I mean, he's now one of the transformational gurus of our world today. And while he was homeless, he became grateful for a pencil. Now, he is one of the most prolific men also in writing and teaching laws of attraction, laws of manifestation. If he had not been grateful for the pencil that he had, if he had not started writing, he could still be homeless, and we would not have everything that he's been able to share with us. So when we are grateful for the simplest of things in our life, we actually open up energetically, vibrationally to the world, right? To God, Spirit, the universe, which allows abundance, which allows opportunities, which allows like-minded people to come into our life. And that increases our abundance. And it starts with the simplest. One of the exercises I had people do, because I do Facebook Lives in our group, and I had said, how often do you thank the things you have in your house? How often do you appreciate your refrigerator, your computer, your favorite chair? You know, and originally they were looking at me like, okay, I'm supposed to go and hug my refrigerator. And in some ways, why not? You and I have been deployed, right? Do we appreciate a refrigerator, a bed, a shower, water? Right. And again, I'm Air Force, so I know I did not have it as difficult as you as a Marine, but
Yeah.
we understand the appreciation of an inanimate object. You know, there have been studies done that how we talk to plants affects their growth. How we talk to water molecules, which the human body, 80% of us, I think, is made up of water.
Yep.
And water expands. Water is more positive energetically when we're talking to our body in a positive way. So, and as you can tell, this really excites me, this concept of gratitude.
Absolutely.
When we have gratitude in our business, for every dollar that comes in, it doesn't matter that it's $500. You had a dollar come in, and I am grateful for that dollar. I am grateful for a call, even if they say no, because I had that opportunity. I had that energy. I had this conversation with a human being
Yep.
and created a connection.
Mm.
So I truly believe, and I live, now I'm human, so I can have some ungrateful thoughts, right? I'm a human being.
Not perfect.
Those thoughts come in, how quickly I can change it so that I am in a place of gratitude, my mindset, and the congruency between mind, body, spirit, which actually helps me to build my business and to connect with others, to support others, and to help them to have a business, a life, relationships based in gratitude.
Yeah, that's how you thrive and not survive out of the uniform right there. Yeah, so I mean, I want to flip it on this. I want to ask you this question, go back and ask you this question, because for me, and I know a lot of veterans, they struggle with this, is I know one thing in feeling gratitude, you got to feel it. You got to vibrate on the same frequency of gratitude, right? And there's times where I wake up, I do my 5 minutes of gratitude journaling, I listen to affirmations, I got those routines in place, but there's a lot of guys and gals that are getting out, or I've been out for a while, that can't feel that feeling of gratitude that opens up that abundance because they have that numbness, right? Because we're trained to turn off that emotional side of us in the uniform. So what would be your advice, your golden grenade for guys and gals that are getting out of the uniform, strictly for you? I mean, you're going after empowering women, but obviously guys are getting a lot of wisdom from listening to this as well. What would be your golden grenade to have us be able to feel that feeling of gratitude for us that have been conditioned to be numbed to our emotions?
Right. You know, one of the things that it takes is changing our habit, because the numbness, right? The defense mechanism of being numb is a habit. Because originally people didn't have it. And it was taught, it was recommended, it was decided, and we push things away to the back of our brain. Because our brain and our mind are two separate things. Brain knows facts. The mind knows the story that we attribute to facts and the emotions associated. So gratitude is an emotion, a perspective that we create. And in some ways, it is now reconditioning our mind that created the numbness that we have told our brain to have. So, and I know what I'm saying sounds simple, and I know it's not simple to recondition. I've done therapy with individuals who have PTSD for almost 30 years. From World War II, Korea, Vietnam veterans, First Gulf War, Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, individuals from Afghanistan, sexual assault victims. So I know when we have had difficulties occur, our brain and our mind works differently. We can recondition. We can change that, but it's introducing and studying, living a new habit. So as you said, you get up in the morning and you do your journaling and you do your meditation. And in some ways, these individuals, even if they think it's silly, right? Well, I don't want to journal about gratitude. I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they push it away. But when we start reconditioning, when we start having new habits, when we deliberately have positive thoughts, and this has been proven that when we change our mindset, when we change our thoughts, we actually change the neural pathways in our brain. So we're creating new pathways that latch on to the positivity. But we have to do it on a regular basis to sort of erase the negative pathways that we have latched onto, because that's how people survived. They did survive. But now we want a new level of survival. We want the level of survival that is based in gratitude and passion and purpose. But it's having a new life. It's having a new way of thinking. And as they make that transition, a lot of emotions come up, a lot of memories, a lot of stuff. And it's uncomfortable, so people want to revert back. And it's like crossing that river, right? It's difficult when you're wading in the deep waters and the current is trying to take you out and you feel like you're drowning. But when you get to the other side, you're rejoicing that you got through it and that you didn't stop in the middle and give up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we need to help people realize. Yes, you don't want to do it in the beginning. Yes, it seems maybe too simple or it seems silly. And sometimes you want to give up because all that other stuff comes up. But you can get through it. But you're creating a new mindset. You're creating a new life and a new way of thinking.
Yeah. It's like riding a bike. When we started riding bikes, it didn't work. We had to build the muscular repetition to actually learn how to balance and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like redefining who you are out of the uniform, deconditioning that. It's all through habits. And I'm a big believer in you got to have a coach, the same mind that has you in your circumstance, situation, thought processes, can get you out of it. So definitely get a coach. I have a coach in every area of my life. Denise, I know that you have a good counsel around you that guides you and your success as well when we deal with breakdowns in life. So Denise, I want to kind of get down to the concluding on like, what is the major thing that you're passionate about that you'd like to share about on the Ambitious Vet Show today?
You know, one of the reasons that I am doing what I'm doing, why I am coaching women, and I will coach men. I have male hosts with Global Voice Radio. I have always been an advocate for others. I've been a champion for the underdog. I will fight for rights no matter, who it is for. And one of the quotes that drives me or motivates me is a quote by the Dalai Lama. And he made this in 2010. He was at a peace summit in Canada. And the Dalai Lama said, the world will be saved by the Western woman. That is me, right? That is other women in the military. That is women from countries where we have a voice. You and I have both been in countries where women do not have a voice, and more often than not, will be killed if they speak against a man, if they speak against the government. You and I have seen that.
Yep.
So I truly believe that women, with the support of men, that we can change the world. But when we are able to, as those of us in the US and other countries that support women, we truly need to step into our power and share our voice and be arm in arm with women and men who support us. Because when we come together as that collective, we can eradicate the evil, the enemy. I mean, the genocide that's happening in the world, the slavery that's still happening in the world. But we can't be at odds, women against women or women against men. And, you and I are not going to get political, but we know that there's a lot of anger in the world. And so we need to get past that anger, and we really need to work together. And I truly believe when women are supportive in our power, of each other and of men, and we're all working together, we can make the entire world a better place.
Mm.
I believe that, and that motivates me to work with women, to share voices, to share the message, and to reach out to others.
Mm. That's awesome. And how are you awakening and empowering the women that right now that are looking to own and discover themselves, their purpose, and finding their voice? How are you helping them do that? What's the platform?
Well, I've had women's workshops where I talk to women, stepping into their power, stepping up, and making a difference, even if it's in themselves and their family. On Global Voice Radio, having a platform where others can share their message. So it really is being visible myself, right? I had to step up. Being here with you and sharing authentically, sharing some of my vulnerabilities is a way to help other women. So I am doing and being what I hope other women can be. And that is sharing, being visible, having a voice, and modeling for others.
Yeah, you're a prime example of it. Yeah, so great. I mean, you're literally only the second woman to ever be on the Ambitious Vet so far. We're about 30 episodes in. You're the second one, okay? And, I think there is a stigma around the Ambitious Vet being more masculine energy, but it doesn't have to be like that. There can be a woman like you that are coming in, standing for something that they see wrong in the world and actually going after it, empowering women around them, right? So, I mean, it's just amazing what you're doing for women and, even for men, dropping golden grenades in here. I'm sure there's a lot of male military guys that are going to be watching this and be like, wow, like my voice, I want my voice to be heard, right? Like there is something that I have that I need to find a platform to get my voice heard more. So, I mean, with the Global Voice Radio, tell us more about that and how people can get more connected in that, because it sounds like that's a good platform for ambitious vets to go and get their voice heard.
So Global Voice Radio is an online platform to support individuals who can't or don't want to, don't have the time necessarily to develop their own show or their own podcast. So we have a platform that we help you to create your show, we market your show, I have other experts come in and do training to just our hosts so that we really do support an individual. Now, there is a cost, but it's very cost effective regarding, we're basically marketing you to the world. So we have hosts already from England, Canada, Australia, the US that are creating their shows.
That's awesome.
So that everybody can hear it. We're planning an online summit that will occur in June. And we also will be having at least one in-person conference every year in a different country where our hosts are located. So in some ways, we're creating a community of individuals who will help and support each other as a host, because it's a very collaborative process. We have our host group where we support one another, we train in that group, but also I see us having platforms so others can learn from us, not just through the shows, but through online summits and our live in-person conferences.
There's a lot there. You're up to some awesome things. Yeah. From what I can see out there, there's platforms out there that will help you prepare for interviews, shows, and stuff like that, but no actual platform out there that will have you utilize their resources, their network, their technology, all that, and market you, leverage their platforms, sacrifice their brand. Let's face it, you're putting your brand, your reputation on the line for these people to go out there and have their voice heard. So that's amazing. That's amazing. So how can people come and find out more about how to connect with that?
Well, I would encourage everyone listening to join our Facebook group, Global Voice Radio. And you can reach out to me, Denise Joy Thompson. I have an author's page, and I also have my personal page. Finding either one of those, you can leave me a message. I encourage anyone who's interested in being a host, schedule a 30-minute call. I get to learn about you. And I ask you almost all the questions, right? I want to know about you, your business, your message, and then how can I support you? So definitely contact me, get on a call. Love Zoom calls. I love seeing people as I'm talking to them. And it really is supporting the message and the message that we have and sharing it with others. You know, you mentioned Grant Cardone and you talked about sales.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that one of my business coaches had said is sales is sacred service.
Mm.
If we do not sell our talent, our skills, our gifts, someone who needs it is not able to access it.
Mm.
We do need to sell because it is an act of service.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. How else is the gift of ours supposed to be delivered and add value to the world? There has to be that out there. So that is awesome. So good. So I'll actually, Ambitious Vets, I'm actually going to post those links to all of our platforms, or Facebook or website, all that down in the comments below. So be looking out for that. Now, Denise, I do want to give a shout out to Richard Kaufman. He said, awesome. I know that this is the second time we're going live. So the engagement's there, but not there. But Cornelius Maxwell, awesome guy, actually just posted a speech that he did recently inside the group that went viral. He said, I agree what a person feeds themselves mentally will be expressed and communicated physically. Really good. That's a golden grenade. That is awesome. So that's what he heard out of this. So Denise, I just want to thank you for being part of the Ambitious Vet Tribe today. I mean, really, you dropped some real big golden grenades that blew it up today. You are on fire. And just thank you. Thank you for being who you are for women out there and unleashing them to really discover who they really are. Thank you for making it out today.
Well, you're so welcome. Thank you, Chris, for having me. And I look forward to more of our discussions.
Yeah.
So you'll have to come over on Global Voice Radio and be on one of our shows. But definitely, you are doing a service for others by sharing voices.
Yeah, I got that. Thank you for that.
Well, there you guys have it. There is episode number 14 with Denise Joy Thompson. Guys, as always, I'm going to go ahead and drop in my golden grenade that I got and kind of blew my mind. It was really one of the golden grenades she dropped towards the middle part where she says, do you fuel your doubts or do you fuel your abilities? So guys, I want to I did some research. I was listening to this podcast recently, and it reminded me, when she said that, it reminded me of this Cherokee legend. For those of you guys that has not seen me as far as what I look like, I am partly Indian, Cherokee Indian, but mostly German. My German outweighs my Cherokee. But there is a Cherokee legend. And it's the Cherokee legend of the two wolves. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and read this out. And I want you guys to let me know. Private message me, email me, let me know what you guys get out of this. But guys, this Cherokee legend of two wolves is explained as this. An old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is angry, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other is good, though. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed. So guys, with that being said, which one are you feeding? Are you feeding your doubts? Are you feeding your abilities on a daily basis, guys? Here's the thing. We were warrior made, guys. But to become passion driven, we've got to fuel our abilities. We got to fuel that sense of faith, that sense of hope, that 1 ounce of opportunity that we see on that daily opportunity. We gotta see it, and we gotta go after that one opportunity, because guess what? That one opportunity that you see is gonna stack up through consistent action and investment of your cognitive abilities, your emotional abilities, your spiritual abilities. All of that will strengthen your resilience and see something through to the end, just like you got through what you got through in the military. So guys, fuel your abilities. Guys, if you love this episode, go ahead and invite this out to any ambitious vet that you need to have hear this. Guys, I want you also to go and rate and review the show. I think starting next week, I'm going to go ahead and start giving shout outs to everyone that rates and reviews. So if you guys want to be shouted out here on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, go ahead and rate and review. I'm going to be calling out my favorite testimonial every single week. So go ahead and get over there and get that done. Guys, also, any feedback is the lifeblood of this show. So if you guys have positive, negative, in between, even some tips and tricks, whatever you guys have, go and email me at choffman@vettrainingcoaching.com, and I'd love to hear from you guys. So guys, with that being said, we already know we're warrior made. But guys, to be passion driven, let's go implement one golden grenade, and let's go dominate our new